Hello! Hi! Hey, Wolffy here. We're 1 week out from Pinball Expo 2024, 40th anniversary, big extravaganza. So we're here in the game room. I don't think I needed to say that. Over in this part of the game room though, it's funny enough we're talking about Expo, but this is the important one. This is what's referred to as, in my humble opinion, the Allentown corner. Ivan, you put on a good show. Naturally, you're going to sneak into an Expo video. World Cup Soccer came from Allentown, going to make an appearance at Expo. So if you're there, check it out, find me. Let's talk about World Cup Soccer. It's pinball, it's fun. But today, we do need to get lost in the zone over this guy. Stern Electronics Lightning. Specifically, why does this game even exist? I have a real love-hate relationship with this one, and I'm going to give you all the nitty-gritty details why. And there's a story there. For example, it started out as these and just kept going from there. So if you want to find out more and all the fun stuff as to why I have this love and hate relationship and help me see if I actually want to stick with the WPCs or continue falling deeper in love with this era of Stern Electronics, 70s, 80s games and all their nostalgia, stay tuned. Help me out. We're going to share a fun story. Hope you enjoy it. In the meantime, here's a sneak peek as to what it looks like now.
For me personally, it all began with Sea-Witch. That's my introduction into Stern Electronics, not to be confused with the modern Stern pinball. These games have a particular charm to them. After working on them, you realize, okay, for starters, they're built cheap. Like guys in a garage actually made these games. And that somehow yet contributes to the charm. They actually had to work on creating tables that had fun rules and are fun to play. And on top of that, they covered these games with what I think is some of the best art you're going to find in all of pinball. Chicks and skulls and water. That's what made me play Sea-Witch in the first place. So their strategy worked. When collectors then go and take that art to a whole new level, fix these things up, put on the shiny rails, make sure that the art is all tuned up, you can then actually see their choice of vibrant colors and how it just makes the game attractive to come play. And it's sad that there's a lot of modern games that still don't incorporate this kind of design technique into their games. It's just a charm of an era gone by. You can check out these games, and when they're in their natural habitat of the dimly lit bars, they glow. Those lights behind all the plastic parts that incorporate the playfield and were just mixed in with the art, all contributes to the charm. This is a great generation, full of a lot of charm, and it really got me into pretty much exploring and playing all these 80s Stearns games. It's become my second favorite generation for a reason. So after all that fun discovery of that entire era of games, you'd think I'd see everything. One year, it's time for a drive out to Allentown. So me and the buddies, we do what we do. We hop on into our cruise mobile and we enjoy a nice long drive down the streets, which means we need something to talk about with all these interstates and tunnels that we go through to get from here to there. And one year, this particular year, one of my travel buddies, Craig, really cool guy. If you've ever met him, you know he's completely chill, completely down to earth, completely laid back, never with anything crazy or think that there's any bit of a crazy side to this guy. He mentions that as we're talking about what we're looking forward to out in the show, that he's going to be picking up a bunch of parts and do an unpart out a project of a Lightning. There's a lot to unpack in that sentence. First, unpart out, followed by what's a Lightning? Well, when I explained that it's An 80s Stern game? I'm like, how do I miss this? So we're off in the long tunnel, out on our drives, and turns out not one, not two, but possibly as many as 3 people were selling parts of a Lightning that they had parted out. And Craig took a big interest in talking to all these people and buying the different parts because apparently none of them were like selling the same parts and none of them were collaborating with each other. Okay? That gave him the opportunity to come up with this whole concept of let me buy all the parts from these 3 guys and put one back together because it's a rare game, which then leads to the question, is it rare from the manufacturer or is it rare because they're dropping like flies? But again, me wanting to take in everything from this era, I had absolutely zero clue what Lightning was. Luckily, in the back seat with me was the Pinball Pentorn, Michael Shaloub's book. So I was able to flip and realize I have never seen this game before. It's like, what is it? Clearly from the time when they wanted to compete with games like Jungle Lord with the double play field. It looks interesting. I'm more into like the space art, but it looks interesting. I think more of the interest actually came from this whole, I'm going to build one from all these junk parts. And that, I was intrigued. That was fun. I had just completed restoring 2 getaways to make one good one out of them, but both those were destroyed in a fire. This is like parts. And you're assembling from scratch, and my day job's engineer, so right up, now I'm invested. And what didn't help with my whole, like, my interest is peaked here, I wish I thought of this project first. If you've ever been to the Allentown show, then you've probably experienced the guys way out in the grassy part of the parking lot who set up the RV and have a bunch of machines plugged in just out there in the parking lot. We always visit them. But they had a video pinball mixed in that you could pull up a bunch of games, and right after having all this conversation about parts that were being picked up, Craig's like, hey look, they have the game I'm going to like build in here. So we played it, and the foreshadowing begins, because as it was my turn in a video simulation of a pinball game, the ball gets stuck. How does that happen? But I digress. This project sounded fun, and I wish I had in. I don't know, just something about it. Getting in there with my hands, building stuff. He had the idea first. Good for him. Maybe I'll keep an eye out, and hopefully someday I'll have my shot at this. So that concludes story time with Uncle Wolffy, and that's how this whole craziness began. One road trip out to Allentown. Thanks again, Ivan, for putting on a great pinball show.
This is actually turning out to be a very cool turn of events. So not only have I convinced you guys that there's some excitement that on my part about this whole unparting out project, and I just got a text that Craig is interested in seeing if I actually want to buy out this project. And of course my response right away is, heck yeah! Now I get a chance to actually like work on the project that I was sold on way back in this whole thing when it started, that day out to Allentown. Thing is, now I'm not 100% certain how much of the project is finished. I know the game is assembled. I don't know if it's fully complete. So I'm gonna go now, head over there, check out the game, see what amount of work is left, and okay, yeah, I'm starting to actually like get a little bit excited about this. I mean, worst case, after all, this is after all a rare game. Unparted out project or not, a Stern Lightning is not something you're going to come across all that often. So it's kind of cool to actually own one of these. So I'm already excited about that alone. But I'm off to check this game out, and I will be right back to fill you in on what steps, if any, are next. See you shortly.
And complete it was. entirely assembled, but oh, the cabinet. That's right. This is a conglomerate of parted out machines. It's an unpart out project. And that cheetah cabinet just reminds me of those beautiful cabinets that we've seen earlier out at the Allentown show. So clearly, I need to really fix this cabinet up and not make it look like a parted out machine. Weather beaten, faded, and thank goodness that stencils are readily available. So all my problems can just go away with a nice little sander. The wood itself is actually pretty solid, and unlike other projects, no glue and clamping required to keep the cabinet or put the cabinet back together and have it in one solid piece. And again, I was not going to do this by hand because the entire time going through my head with this entire painting.
I would have loved to sit in on that design meeting after finishing all that stencil work. Oh my God. What do they do? Sit down, it's like, okay guys, we got this game. It's called Lightning. What's it gonna be about? Norse gods! Oh, hear me out. I got a great idea for the cabinet. Lots and lots of yellow dots. That conveys Norse gods. Does it though? Does it really? It's done. The yellow dots are done. They're fixed up, and I did not have to go in with a paintbrush and do it by hand. And for that, I'm grateful. Otherwise, my art skills are not to that level. Some people are. No, not here. But of course, I couldn't just let the outside of the cabinet go. No. That's not how I roll. So inside the cabinet, I had to actually address a few other things that I really wanted to do since the outside of the cabinet looks this good. Thank goodness for those guys in the garage just building pinball machines, because the one charm they gave it is they kept it completely modular. So in terms of the transformer board, I could just take that off, sand it, and make that board look good. But in terms of the speaker, as well as the slam tilt and the power module and the tilt, I needed to cut an entire new board. And to think, well, I like to think I'm manly enough that I can actually use a saw and a drill, so I did. Had to make these look as good as the outside. The other thing that came as a good surprise, while you're in here getting this detailed with the cabinet, make sure you check that ground braid. When I was testing switches, I inadvertently triggered one. Took me a while to realize it's because my other hand was on this rail. And me being the electronic guy that I am, it's like, hey, that's fun. Let me try it on this rail. Now, naturally, if I'm telling you this story, I didn't get the same strip switching. It's like, I know something about electric circuits. What's up here? The ground braid's completely intact, multimeter confirmed, it's attached to the right screw. One tiny piece of the blue plastic wrap that protects these things from chipping was folded up and jammed behind the screw, and it was as thin as it is, just enough to keep the electric circuit from completing. It was also a nice surprise to know that these rails are actually new. I didn't even know that was part of the project. Good surprise. Saw all the cabinet work inside, outside. The rails that I buffed and polished thinking they were old weren't. But they're buff and polished anyway. Here we go. Cabinet complete. And I'd like to tell you more. However...
Just like that, it looks like we have come to the end of our journey. For at least now. There's definitely a lot more to talk about here because we still got to get under the playfield and back box, all the other fun stuff that makes this game possible. And so there'll be another video coming out until I see you again in that next video. I am Wolffy. Au to you.